I kind of want to move into a topic that not a lot of people discuss, but that's really, really important. And that's kind of the legal issues surrounding building a business. So at the inception of this business, I'm sure that your legal needs were definitely different than what they are now. So can you kind of touch on how those legal needs have changed and maybe what they were and what they are?
Yeah. So at the beginning of doing this work, our legal stuff was really specific to intellectual property and how, if you create something, you can work to protect that creation. It was less about the legal entities of the business. It was less about the liability considerations. It was less about almost anything, because honestly, when the business was smaller, you don't know what you don't know. And as the business grew, what you realize is the things that you had, either resource-wise or structure-wise or protection-wise, were good for you then, but aren't good enough for you now. And so we had to find a way to sit with people who, again, had more experience with having grown companies from smaller to bigger, who had more experience doing work in the individual spaces that we were doing work, that could explain to us a little bit of the intricacies of what kind of legal things we actually needed, since often we didn't even know what we didn't know. And so we had to find somebody who had expertise in the live event space. We had to find someone who had expertise in the digital education space. We had to find someone who had expertise in the publishing space. And then finding those people who had those experiences, they gave us the list of, here's the stuff that, man, we really had to get a handle on. And here's the stuff that we thought we did, but we actually really didn't. These were things that weren't worth spending as much time on. And then we found somebody who could handle the diversity of the needs that we had. So we went from having an amazing, man, we had the most amazing IP attorney for a long time. And when we crossed a threshold to a place where our needs grew, it was a really hard thing to realize that, man, we're going to have to transition away from this person that we really, really like, because we need someone who has, one, just more people. There are going to be times when the kind of ebbs and flows of our legal needs cross a threshold that would have allowed a smaller shop to handle the things that we have needs for. But two, we realized that we needed to have a diversity in how the depth of subject matter expertise in individual disciplines could help surround us with just every angle, as opposed to someone who's a little more traditionally practiced in a single kind of law. And so we ended up moving from a smaller shop to a bigger shop. And the things that we need legal help for now, I thought that I had a handle on what we needed legal help for now. I don't have a handle on what we need help for at all, because it has gone way beyond my understanding. And that's why you end up bringing somebody in who has that kind of expertise. I like it when they give it to me in layman's terms. I feel like I can sleep better at night when I know that the team has created the legal entity, has made the recommendations around reducing liability, has done any of those things. Mm-hmm. A lot of those things I didn't even realize were things I should be worrying about until I had the right group of people around me telling me why we needed to do X, Y, or Z.
Okay. So share like one of the most important things that you learned that you never would have known had you not had one of these subject matter experts.
Oh, goodness. I mean, there's so many little nuances in every deal that we do that I came out of having been a sales head at the Walt Disney Company and negotiated with, people in a way that I think I came in thinking that, well, that's the way you can negotiate with anyone, or that business generally works this way. So the terms that, govern a relationship will generally be like they were for me in the past. And that's crazy, because we have direct relationships. We have direct relationships that go through a distributor. We have direct relationships that are online. And each of them have a completely different kind of there's just different rules. There's different, legal considerations that come into play with every single platform, whether it's a retailer or doing something online or doing something direct. And I think the mistake of thinking that the thing that worked in the past or the thing that is the thing that will easily be applied to everything, it's crazy. That and when I was first here and we were a smaller company and I'd get a contract, I'd read the contract and I understand English, so I'd feel comfortable signing a document after I'd read it without having sent it over to a lawyer, because my practical brain was like, what could these lawyers possibly find? I'll be fine. It's okay. And that's like small thinking talk. Honestly, that's like scarcity mindset. You don't want to spend the $400 to have somebody like read a contract. It's crazy now that I think about it. And now I don't sign anything. I don't sign anything. I mean, I think I signed a Start Today journal the other day. I should have had the lawyer look at it, but I don't sign anything unless someone on the legal team has said, sign this document. Mm-hmm. Because if anything, like, we are just finally a year and a half into having jumped into this together, out of some of the things that we agreed to, that if only I'd had the right legal person giving me some insight on, I would have never agreed to every single detail in the term. I took boilerplates so often as the way that things had to be done and never really pushed back on, oh yeah, by the way, we just don't do that here. Now, I mean, forget it. We redline everything. I mean, if you want to do, like, if someone wants to do business with us, if they're knocking on our door, it's going to be on our terms. We're going to still be reasonable and hopefully have it reflect the kind of value we can deliver back. But the idea of just signing a boilerplate document is crazy. There's no way I would do it now in a way that I did just a year and a half ago.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I think that you imparted a very important lesson in all that you said, even though you didn't use the words outright. It's definitely, as you grow, you probably need somebody who's a little bit more well-versed than you.
100%.
Yes. Okay. So the last thing I want to touch on before we end this podcast is, how do you involve your kids in the business or in the philosophies of your business?
Well, there are so many things when it comes to like this idea of impact or this idea of value delivery that are applicable to them walking into their everyday. I mean, I've got a tattoo on my arm. It says ally. I believe the work we're doing is in part to come around this community and be an advocate for them and help them with tools that'll help them in a way that maybe they can't on their own help themselves. And I sit and have that same conversation with my kids as they're walking into school on a first day of school or any day of school kind of basis. Like, it's your job to find the person who doesn't have the platform that you do, that doesn't speak up like you do, that doesn't have the access that you do, and grab them and bring them up alongside, advocate for them. And so I think there's a little bit of that. We are, like I said, in the midst of this last 90 days challenge, which is about creating habits and discipline around how you'd hope to show up the best for your life. And so we are, in the same way that we're encouraging this community to move your body for 30 minutes. I mean, I'm running like a crazy person right now, and I'm doing it not every day, but a lot of days. I am taking a kid out either on a bike or having them run in shoes on the roads with me, so that they also get a little bit of a habit loop around the power of pushing yourself physically. Not in like a pursuit of weight, not in a pursuit of muscle, in a pursuit of just moving your body so that when you do something that's a little bit physically challenging, you appreciate, one, that you can, and two, when you do, that it changes the way you think about what is possible in your life. You know, my wife, Rachel, had the second biggest selling book of the year last year, one of the biggest selling books of this year, and Girl Stop Apologizing. And for my boys and my daughter, they will never in their life question whether a woman can stand on a stage, have a #1 New York Times best-selling books, lead a meeting in a boardroom. Like, they, because of the work that we're doing and the model that their mother affords them, will hopefully be people who are always open to the reality that women are as ... as anyone else. And, you know, I mean, I've said many times, Rachel wrote this book, Girl Stop Apologizing. I hope Noah Hollis, who is my 2-year-old daughter, is never in a position to need to read that book, because she will have had modeled in our home a reality that Rachel Hollis is not going to apologize for being her awesome self. And I hope that Noah, I mean, Noah's a monster right now because she's 2, but she is already displaying that she has no interest in apologizing for who she was made to be. You know, so there's I mean, and I guess the last thing I would say is we did establish a foundation called the Hollis Foundation, where 10% of the company's profits are going to be, every time someone transacts with us in anything, put into this foundation. And the foundation's going to work to come around organizations that at the beginning are close to our heart, but that as we roll the foundation work out, be grant submitted reflections of what is important to the community, so that we can come around and support the needs of the community through 501(c)(3)s who are supporting specifically kids and kids in care. We were 4-time foster parents and have adopted a daughter, so kids in care is an important one for us. The military, whether you're active duty, a veteran, or a spouse partner to someone who is active duty or a veteran, and women, and specifically women coming out of crisis. If you know, coming out of addiction, out of homelessness, out of you know, anything when it comes to crisis. So involving our kids in the work that we'll do on the philanthropic or charity side of things is super, super important, because I want the legacy of the work we do here to be like the way that the people who've received the tools that we put in their hands, to like let them go change their world, but also because of their having supported our company, that we might be able to go out and help change some people in how we can rally around the charities that support them best. And I want my kids, like, what do you hope for your kids when you retire? I hope they want to take on the Hollis Foundation and distribute funds for the rest of their life because of how much we've been able to fund the foundation with.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's a very positive note to end this podcast on, us helping others, whether it's through this exchange of information or through how you're growing your company to in turn help communities. So I want to thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And tell people where they can find you, where they can find Rachel, your company, and the books that you mentioned.
Right on. So we, as I said, we work at the Hollis Company, which is thehollisco.com. You can follow either of us on social. She's Ms. Rachel Hollis. I'm Mr. Dave Hollis. And we do a weird live stream every single morning. It's called the Start Today Morning Show. Literally no one is talking about it, but at 8 a.m. Central every day, and on iTunes and replay, you can hear us goofing and hopefully encouraging and motivating a little bit the pursuit of a great start to the day. Rachel has written 7 or 8 books now, but the 2 biggest, most recent, are Girl Wash Your Face and Girl Stop Apologizing. They're available literally everywhere. And I've written a book. It doesn't come out until March, but it is available for pre-order right now. It's called Get Out of Your Own Way, A Skeptic's Guide to Growth and Fulfillment. And if you pre-order it now, you can listen to the first 30 minutes of that book today. And the only other thing I'm going to plug is that dang business conference, because if you are already listening to this podcast, you are the kind of person who could benefit from the greatest collection of business teachers in the history of the universe. Charleston, South Carolina, November 7th through 9th. It's called Rise Business. It's Brendan Burchard, Ed Milet, Marie Forleo, Amy Porterfield, Trent Shelton, Tom Bilyeu, Chris Hogan. Forget it. It is going to be 3 days of fire. There's only a handful of tickets left. Go to thehollisco.com and check it out. I am done.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks again, Dave.
You got it. Have a fantastic weekend. Thanks for having me.